Umudumla selamlıyorum. Hepinize sevgilerimi iletiyorum. Şu anda yapmakta olduğunuz konferansta başarılar diliyorum. Kolaylıklar gelsin arkadaşlar. Evet, son 2 yıllık süreç, özellikle de 18 aylık cezaevi süreci benim açımdan oldukça zorlu bir süreçti. Ama bu zorlu süreçle başa çıkmamda en büyük desteğim siz sevgili yoldaşlarımın göstermiş olduğu dayanışma ilişkisiydi. Binlerce kilometreleri, okyanusları, Sincan cezaevinin yüksek beton duvarlarını aşıp bana ulaşan sözünüz, sesiniz, selamınız bana güç verdi, destek oldu. Dayanışmanın gücünü ve güzelliğini gösterdi bana. Bütün duruşmaları inatla ve ısrarla, yorulmadan takip ettiğiniz için, benim tekrardan özgürlüğüme kavuşmam için yaptığınız bütün mücadelelerden dolayı sizlere, her birinize ayrı ayrı teşekkür ediyorum. Elbette bu süreçleri yaşayan yalnızca ben değilim. KESK üyesi yüzlerce arkadaşımız benzer süreçleri yaşadı ve yaşamaya devam ediyor. Emek, demokrasi, barış mücadelesi yürüttüğümüz için, kadın mücadelesi yürüttüğümüz için, sağlık hakkı mücadelesi yürüttüğümüz için, çocuklarımıza daha güzel bir gelecek bırakmanın mücadelesini yürüttüğümüz için yargılandık, yargılanıyoruz. Evet, zorlu süreçler, ama bu zorlu süreçlerle başa çıkmanın bir yolu dayanışma ilişkilerini geliştirmekse, diğer en önemli yolu da kararlılıkla, ısrarla ve inatla bu mücadeleyi sürdürmek. Bu mücadeleyi sürdürdüğümüz sürece bizler bu mücadelemizde haklılığımızı bildiğimiz için de hep beraber kazanacağız ve hep beraber iyi olacağız. Ben bir kez daha bu yolu birlikte yürüdüğümüz için, birlikte yoldaşlık yaptığımız için ve bu süreçte benim ve diğer bütün arkadaşlarımın yanında olduğunuz için sizlere tekrardan teşekkür ediyorum. Zorlu bir süreç, zorlu ve uzun bir yol, ama birlikte yürürsek bu yolun sonunda güzel günleri göreceğiz. Hepimize kolay gelsin, yolumuz açık olsun. Hepinize tekrardan sımsıkı kucaklıyorum ve selamlarımı gönderiyorum. Kendinize iyi bakın.
Conference, we can't forget. Conference, we can't and will never forget the courage and bravery of Gonal and her colleagues. Solidarity, Gonal. I now have the pleasure of welcoming our international guest speaker, Rosa Pavanelli. In October, Rosa will retire after 11 years as General Secretary of our global union, Public Service International. Under Rosa's leadership, PSI has become an internationally respected campaigning voice. Rosa has been our representative at United Nations and International Labour Organization and the World Health Organization, standing up for public service workers and speaking out against privatization and the neoliberal model. Rosa started as an activist in the Public Services Federation of the CGIL trade union and working in the Italian civil service. She went on to become a full-time official of the CGIL, covering the municipal sector first and later the health sector, becoming a regional secretary and then head of international before being elected president of CGIL, Public Service Federation. Rosa represented the CGIL in both the European Federation, EPSU, eventually being elected as vice president, and in the PSI, where she was also a vice president before being elected general secretary in 2012. Rosa has always been a good friend of UNISON and has worked closely with Dave Prentice, who has served as PSI president alongside her. So, conference, please give Rosa a very warm welcome.
Good morning, comrades, and thanks so much for inviting me to your conference. First of all, I want to thank Christina for her continued support to PSI campaigns and the work that we do together, and for being able to relate the national fights that you are leading here in the UK with the global campaign that we are doing on many subjects. Then let me take the opportunity to thank Lisa Snape and Nick Rook for their invaluable contribution in our executive board. They bring the voice and the experience of UNISON at global level, but they also contribute to shape our policies globally. And finally, this is last time I can do it here in your conference. I'd like to thank very much your former General Secretary, Dave Prentice, my current president, as president of PSI, who has been really inspiring the work that we do at global level. He has been re-elected 3 times by all the unions around the world. Imagine 750 unions that we represent in PSI. And his reputation is well known all over the world, and I must say he's a champion for public service workers globally. Yesterday, Christina opened her speech celebrating the release of Selma Atabey from Erdogan's prisons. And we heard right now Gönül talking about their experience in Turkey. This is what solidarity is about. And PSI is proud to be on the forefront of this solidarity fight, not only in Turkey. We did in Guatemala, in Ecuador, in Costa Rica, in Korea, in Liberia, in Algeria, in the Philippines, and many other places around the world where workers' rights are violated, where the right to form a union, the right to collective bargaining, the right to ensure health and safety at the workplace, the right to have a world of work free from violence, and to defend the right to strike, as you are doing here in Great Britain, is at stake. And I want to thank you all, for your strong campaign to defend the right to strike and to strengthen the possibility for workers to take industrial actions, which are undermined by the attack of the right wing's politics all over the world. But in my view, this is just one part of the solidarity work that we have to do. And as a global federation, we do believe that yes, supporting workers around the world means that we need to support their labor and union rights, but it also means that we need to fight against the disruption of a solidarity and justice system that we need if we want to reduce poverty and injustice around the world. We know the global economic system is broken. We know that the global government system failed to ensure justice, well-being, and peace around the world. We know that the overwhelming power of multinational corporations has captured the international institutions and put at stake our democracies altogether, at global level as well as at national level. The global neoliberal system is at war with the working class, is at war with unions of representing workers all over the world, and I must say is more broadly at war with working people, with people, or ordinary people around the world, as they try to affect their civil rights along with their labor rights. Indeed, The failure of the global neoliberal project is what is creating this terrible growth of right-wing populist, nationalist, and fascist parties around the world. We saw how they try to reduce civil rights, starting from the rights of women, and I think your resolution on the international work of women is really timely and is something that I hope you will approve, because it will help our work in the future. And I think that it's time that we call things with their names. It's no longer possible to use euphemism to define what the right is doing and what right is. The right that we saw growing in Italy, in Sweden, in Finland, in the UK, in the US, and in many other parts of the world is really fascism. And that's how we need to fight against. Therefore, we discussed in our past Congress in 2017, the program of action of PSI was titled People Over Profit. And we think that the analysis that we developed in that Congress is still valid, even more valid after the experience we all had with the COVID pandemic. And now what we are proposing for next 5 years in the Congress that we are going to hold in October is continuously put people over profit in a world with multiple crises. I think that we need to acknowledge that never before we have been confronted with so many crises: the health crisis, the economic crisis, the climate crisis, the digital transformation that can be an opportunity but can also turn into another crisis for working people. And yes, war and political instability at global level. Yesterday, we know there's been discussion around the experience that COVID brought to our communities, to our workers, particularly in the health sector. And your fight to defend the NHS is reflected in the strong campaign that we are leading at global level within the World Health Organization, but as well in supporting unions to defend the public nature of the health system around the world. And there's no alternative if we want to make sure that there will be universal access to health services. Yesterday, you had an interesting discussion about care. We saw during the COVID pandemic how intimately care has to be related to the health system. And the fact that the transformation of the care services in a big business created this divarication from the health of the health and the care system is part of the failure that we saw, and is part of the suffering that many of our members had to go through during the pandemic. Your campaign for a national care system is what we are campaigning for with the manifesto that we launched in 2021, where we talk about redistribution of care between the family and the society, when we talk about recognition of the value of care as a human right and not as an economic factor, and where we talk about care as one of the fundamental tools to rebuild a more inclusive and sustainable society. Care jobs help women to freely access the labor market. Care jobs can help reducing the pay gap between men and women, and care jobs can help rebuild more inclusive society globally. This is why this will continue to be and will become even more a priority for PSI in the future, and this is why I'm very proud to say that since 2021, when we launched the manifesto, this idea that care is not just a business, and we hate to call it care economy. Let's call it social care services, accessible for all, gain momentum and attention at global level, even within the UN system. I'm proud to say that we have been fighting over the years for anti-privatization against the privatization of public services. And for the first time, last December, in the UN Habitat Assembly in December, for the first time in an UN document appeared the definition of remunicipalization of public services as an important tool to ensure inclusiveness, implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, and reduction of poverty. And that's the work that we did, the fight that we led globally with the support of many campaigners around the world who fought and still fight against the privatization of public services. Yes, we are told that there's no money to ensure all the public services that we need for everybody. But that's not true. That's not true, because the money is there, but is not in our pockets. The money is hidden in tax havens, and we have thousands of trillions of illicit flows of money going out of our countries, and just to ensure profits to the richest in the world and to multinational corporates. We have been, I think, since I was elected, considering the tax justice campaign as the flagship campaign of PSI. And I'm very proud to say that if we were the only global union federation at the beginning to support the tax justice campaign, we now are in good company with many other global unions and national centers sharing our objectives and working with us. And I must say that some success we have achieved. The fact that the OECD launched the programs and introduced a 15% minimum tax for corporates at global level is the admission that the current tax system is broken, is in total failure. They couldn't hide this fact, even though it's not what we want. It's not enough, because we want public information on the tax paid by the corporation. We want a corporation to pay tax where they produce their profit, not in the tax havens, and we want at least a 25% minimum tax. And we said for the next Congress that we want people of a profit in a world of multiple crises, because, as I mentioned, climate crisis is affecting we all. We see every day disasters impacting on populations all over the world with extreme climate events. We know that we need to protect the workers in frontline services, in the emergency services, and this is our responsibility. It's not just about adaptation. It's about taking seriously the challenge that the climate crisis is imposing and changing the system of production and the system of consumption that we need if we want to really help a population. Otherwise, nobody will stop the flow of migrants. 110 million just 2 days ago, the UN said, will be the climate migrants that will seek safe situations around the world. And there will be no deportation to Rwanda or in any other place if we want really to deal with this issue. And as I said, the digitalization is another challenge, can be an opportunity, but depends how we manage with that. First of all, we need to defend jobs. Second, we need to ask, to claim to governments that they own the property and the know-how of the data that they need to digitalize in this process. Because without that, there will be a terrible loss of know-how, but also a terrible loss of democratic control of public institutions over the data that are given in the hand of few private corporations. This is why our slogan is data are the new public good, are the new common that we need to defend and to protect. And finally, let me say that without a real change in the multilateral governance in the UN institutions, freeing them from the capture, from the power of multinational corporates and private and vested interests, there will be no possibility to have a global governance that can get rid of wars, conflicts, and ensure a peaceful future for our generation. Of course, we are all afraid and we are all very much concerned about what is going on in Ukraine, but many other conflicts around the world are undermining stability and peace. And I think that you need to recognize that. And it's not with a rush to investing more in weapons and armament that we can solve the problem. It's the fact that we need to recognize that the world has changed, that we live in a multipolar world with different areas of influence, and there cannot be a solution that imposes again a unilateral new imperialistic model. We need to get rid of the concept of imperialism and colonialism if we want to build a peaceful world for the future. It's in the hand of workers, it's in the hand of trade unions if we want all together show our power, influence our governments, change the current state, the current situation, the status quo, and really work for a peaceful, just, and solidarity work. Thank you so much.
Gift to say just wanted to give a gift to Rosa to say thank you for coming over to speak to us.
Thank you so much.
Get some photographs.
My pleasure. Thank you, Christina. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rosa, and solidarity from all of us. Conference. Our international work is at the heart of what we do as a union. and we are proud and passionate about our solidarity with all those facing injustice all over our world. Our solidarity reflects in our values as a union, and it's important that those values are reflected in our words. So this is a reminder to delegates of our working in unison guidance and a plea to ensure the language that we use is inclusive for our members. Also, conference, a quick note. Before we continue with business, I want to let you know that you're all invited, everyone in the room is invited to be part of a photo opportunity for the Year of the Black Worker. This will take place when we break for lunch. Can I ask that as many of you as possible stay behind at the end of this morning's session and join in with the photo op? Can I also confirm that the Trans Equality Fringe is taking place today at lunchtime and not at 5 p.m, which I understand is what's in the conference app. So now we'll continue with the rest of this morning's business. Motion 69, defending and